People get excited about whether there's earth warming, and they tend to judge changes in weather by what's happening at the moment or happened last year. But in truth, you're talking about swings in climate temperature, tremendous swings.
Anytime you have a glacial period, the sea level is going to drop. But right now they're melting, so the sea level's coming up.
A very subtle change in temperature or in sea level can cause astronomical consequences.
The big concern is maybe the use of fossilized fuels is making this happen faster than it normally does.
Global warming is very dangerous for Louisiana. If you get increases in water level, 6 inches, 12 inches, it completely alters the ecosystem that the plants are in. You're going to have much more salt water in, and it'll start killing off the brackish and the freshwater marsh. So it's going to be devastating to the whole coast of Louisiana.
There's no highland between us and the Gulf. You could wind up with New Orleans being almost an island, if it was there at all.
The amount of sea level rise that is projected associated with global warming is relatively small compared to a fairly large amount of subsidence that we already have.
The main reason the city is sinking is because of the levees. I mean, it's a real double-edged sword. We don't flood when the river rises anymore, but on the flip side, when the river did overflow the banks, it deposited silt.
We've been cut off from the Mississippi River flooding-wise 150 years, so the soils just keep compacting and going down. And that's the same thing that's happening in coastal wetland marshes where they don't have the sediment coming back in. They're compacting down, so they get to be a point where the type of vegetation cannot live because the soil's too far down, so it becomes open water.
I think the major threat to us is a threat by hurricane.
The Gulf Coast region is unique in the world in the number of really catastrophic tropical storms that hit the region.
Every year we get the scenario that a hurricane or some particular storm event could come in. You're at the whim of Mother Nature.
There's just so much you can do to protect an engineered place, and that's why I think New Orleanians are so afraid of hurricanes, because a direct hit would take the city out. I mean, the estimates are that a direct hit on New Orleans would put us underwater at some level or other for 6 months at least.
The hurricane threat to New Orleans comes from Lake Pontchartrain overtopping the levee, would put 10, 20 feet of water, possibly 30 feet of water in the city.
Once the water comes over the levee, and if the wind continues long enough, New Orleans will fill up to the top of the levee.
New Orleans is probably more vulnerable than any other urban center, certainly in the United States, and probably more vulnerable than any other city in the world.
The city's at risk, 100,000 dead. City government be inoperable for 3 to 6 months. The city has already negotiated with governments on the North Shore to relocate city government until the city's repaired.
The Red Cross announced we're not opening any hurricane evacuation shelters in South Louisiana. Those are places you should not evacuate to. Those are places you should evacuate from.
People are going to have to cooperate and do an early evacuation and just decide that that's one of the costs of living in New Orleans. Just take a little trip and go somewhere else. If you wait too late, it's too late.
They ought to take it upon themselves to have evacuation plans. If a storm is headed toward New Orleans, that they have a plan on getting themselves and their family out of the city.
Any place you go, you're going to put yourself in some sort of danger because you don't know what sort of rising water you're going to have surrounding you. Interstate 10 going in either direction out of the city, getting up to Interstate 59 and any of the other interstates leading out of the city, you're going to go over an awful lot of water to get there, and you're supposed to evacuate, 48, 72 hours ahead of a storm hitting. Most people have to work. They can't go in and tell their boss, I'm evacuating.